Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Lead Balloon Rock Talk. And I'm Mark, and this is my brother Jim. This is our usual show time. It's been a few weeks since we've been able to do a recording. We've been awfully
Sure
busy.
has,
As you
yes.
can see, we've been making our rounds at the North Pole here, and
Yep.
we've made it to just a few days before Christmas. And we wanted to share our version of a Christmas episode with you all. And this is it. We hope you're going to enjoy it. Essentially, what we have in store for you today is just a long list of rock songs, not rock songs, but Christmas songs produced by musicians of classic rock genre, if you will. We did leave some things off the list. You can always go and do your own homework and you can find what you would like to put on here. We'll make reference to some things during the episode here, but essentially, we think it's a nice playlist. You may or may not like everything on the list. I don't know if I like everything on the playlist. I know you, Jim, probably like everything on the
Well,
playlist.
no, I mean it's a mix, but I will say that it's a like every other list that we've put together. It's very eclectic.
Right.
And there are some songs that are being sung by these artists that um, maybe are not completely representative of their typical output, but they're great renditions nonetheless.
Absolutely. Well, let me make a comment real quick before we jump into this list. You know, as we were doing this and putting it all together, it dawned on me that, and you made reference to this as well, that there are a lot of artists that wait until the holidays to do some sort of a compilation, maybe add a song or something to an album they're putting out there and happens to be a Christmas song. And it's really difficult when you start looking to find a full album. So, like, you might find somebody, no offense here, but Michael Bublé, who will put out a full album for Christmas music, or Mariah Carey, who put a full album out just on Christmas music. But when you look at classic rock, it's very challenging because no one puts out a
Yep.
album. You have to dig for individual songs that these artists put out on their own accord, just for whatever reasons they decided to do it. So that's kind of where this list is generated from. You got to dig deep to find music from different artists doing different things at this time of the year. So
I just want to add on to that. So, a lot of these songs, when they were originally put out, back when records were still being played, and a lot of times it was put out on 45s, and they were B-sides. They were literally the flip side of another hit that they were putting out there. And it just so happened that that Christmas song became as big as the A side. So nowadays with Spotify and everything, and artists can upload a song at a time. And so yeah, you're gonna find a lot of these artists don't put out a whole Christmas album. But I also brought up that other question with you yesterday was, you know, of it's I find it very interesting that Christmas is one of the only times, one of those very specific events in our calendar year, where there's so much music devoted to that one event. You don't see it with with any other holiday or any other event in our calendar. But Christmas is just one of those times. You look at the lists. There's tons of Christmas music out there by all kinds of artists. What draws an artist to make a Christmas song, to do a Christmas song? And I thought your reply was excellent, but I think which is what?
it's a monetary thing. It's all about the money. I
Yeah,
mean, marketing and money. I mean, it doesn't get any more broadly based than that. You
right.
pull right out of Thanksgiving and then for the next month, you're listening to Christmas music and ba-boom, it
But I
blows up.
think there's something more to there as well. I don't think it's just marketing and money, but I think,
Well, it is a time of celebration. It is, even though we have marked holidays like Thanksgiving and Easter, and they're very specific too, but there's just something that we gravitate towards here. I think it's the idea of the ending of a year coming up. We have the idea of gift giving that's not usual in all the other holidays that we have. So it is unusual in its own right. It's not the normal holiday, and so we do a lot more celebration too. There's a lot of build up to it as well. You know, you don't have the build up to Thanksgiving. You don't have the build up to Easter. You don't have the Halloween build up per se, unless you're one of those crazy people out there. I'm not being insultive here, but you have to have the 15 pumpkins, the Wicked Witch, and all the other stuff, and 25,000 pumpkins on your lawn. Yep. Anyway,
although I will say, you know, because we did our Halloween edition, and the number of songs that are starting to come out related to Halloween is starting to expand, which wasn't there back.
It'd be interesting to do the same thing in 10 years and see where the music has gone in 10 years. But yeah, for sure.
All right, I thought it was a good question to kind of ponder. So, but let's get into the list. Let's do this.
Definitely. All right, so I'm gonna let you start off here today, and let's get rolling here.
Yep. All right. So, and these are not done in any particular order. They're not based on our.
Wait a minute, hold on. Let's preface that for a second.
Okay.
Because we have doubles on some of the song titles.
True. Yeah.
And what we try to do is stack them. In other words, if the same title came up by different artists, we kind of just kept them lumped together.
Yeah.
Kind of saved the last two songs, and you'll hear that at the end. We'll talk about it, but there's more of a special reason.
But they're not in an order of, you know, this is the best or the worst or anything like that. Right. So, all right. So first one is Christmas, Baby Please Come Home by U2. And this was actually originally written in 1963, a rock song that Phil Spector, the very famous producer, put together. And actually, I don't have a release date for when U2 put this out, but it was back in the 80s, late 80s, I believe. So, all right, the next one, Christmas is a Time to Say I Love You, Billy Squier. This is a name you don't hear very much anymore, but
yeah, you know what? That man rocks.
Yeah,
Billy Squier, whatever things. I mean, he's just been hammering out music.
Yeah,
you know, and he's kind of one of those lost artists. You know, he had his time in the limelight. And the funny thing is, when he goes out on tour, he still thinks he's got that same like magnetic pull that he had, and it's not true. And that rock star status, he thinks he's above. No offense, Billy Squier, but dude, your time has come and gone. We still appreciate your music and we love you. But
he had several hits that you know, people kind of forget about in the early 80s. So this one came out in 1981. It was actually a B-side to his hit My Kind of Lover. So again, that's Christmas is a Time to Say I Love You. Third on the list, Rock and Roll Christmas, George Thorogood, from our hometown of Wilmington, Delaware.
Graduated from our high school. Well, no, I take that back.
He didn't graduate, but he went to our high school.
That's right. He dropped out after 11th grade.
Yeah, but this was a 1983 blues rock original that he put out. So, and then the next one I'll do is Christmas Rapping by the Waitresses. The Waitresses were, again, one of those interesting new wave bands back in the very early 80s. And this was
a catchy song. I don't care how much you like classic rock and roll. This is still a really catchy,
it's a fun song. It's a great song.
It is.
Came out in 1981. So, again, Christmas Rapping. Why don't you take over from there?
All right, cool. So I'm moving along with the list, and this is Christmas Time by Bryan Adams. And, you know, here's a guy, when he first came out, you know, Bryan Adams I didn't like his music. You know, he had to, I don't know what it was about him. I just didn't quite gravitate towards his stuff. I had to listen to him for a good 10 years. And I'm like, wow, you know what? He's actually a really good musician. And he can write songs, too.
Well, because a lot of his music had a pop sheen to it. And I think that was, you know, you have to understand that there was a popishness to his music.
Yeah. Well, I Want to Run to You is like the song I think that finally hooked me. And I was like, okay, now I get it. Yeah. So, Winter Wonderland by the Eurythmics. And that was a song that was written in 1934. That is the original Winter Wonderland. And then they produced that one back in 1987. And it's, you know, contemporary version of the classics. So,
it has a very 80s style backing track to it.
Well, look at the Eurythmics. I mean,
yeah, they define
what a unique sound that is.
Yeah. By the way, so just going back to Christmas Time real quick by Bryan Adams. So he put that out in 1985, but he didn't really do much with it. He didn't make a video. He actually just made a video a couple years ago that was uploaded to YouTube, which has renewed interest in that song, kind of brought it back. And then yeah, like like you said, Eurythmics. I mean, Annie Lennox's voice is just unbeatable.
She still cranks it.
Yep.
It's the best thing. Then we have I Saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus. That's by John Mellencamp. And that was a song that was written in 1952. And John Mellencamp put that one out in 1987. So, there's this like 2 year, if you're looking at it, 1980s was full of like these songs coming out for the Christmas era. As I'm looking down the list here and we see all the release dates for these, there's a lot of 1980s in there.
Yeah. Well, and I like this one because when he put this song out, he was kind of returning to that rootsy kind of style of music. He had the kind of the bluegrass violin going on as part of his accompaniment. So there's a rootsiness to this rendition of it, which I like.
All right. So I'm going to do a couple more here and then I'll let you in on it.
Yep.
But
actually, so this you want me to talk about this next one?
So this next one, all right, I did it for you. I pulled this one for you because you like Arcade Fire. So it's Arcade Fire. And I'm going to just give you a little bit of a warning on that one. It's Jingle Bell Rock, but
not in the way you normally would hear it.
It is not anything like anything.
Yeah.
Just put it out there. You want to sample something, go back into the playlist later.
Yeah.
And check this one out because
well, okay. So let me just give you a little bit of background on it.
Hold on. It has a Christmas title to it, but
yep.
I'm only going to go that far.
Well, so Jingle Bell Rock was originally written in 1957, but in 2001, Arcade Fire was just getting started, and they had a Christmas party, and they were getting pretty wasted. They were drunk, and they were sitting around the piano, and they just kind of turned the tape recorder on and started singing Jingle Bell Rock, and a year later, they had sung several other Christmas songs, and they released this a year later to their fan base as just kind of an extra. And we're used to them being highly polished and just really, really well crafted songs. Well, this one harkens back to the punk ethos. It is out of tune. It is terrible sounding.
It's rough. Let's just go that far. It's rough.
Yeah, it's definitely rough, but it's very interesting to hear them. I mean, you can hear some of the underlying musicianship even when they're not totally there cognitively. But it's only a minute and a half, and it's worth throwing in this list.
Sure, why not? That's why I put it there.
Yeah.
And then another one of your bands that you enjoy, the White Stripes. I put Candy Cane Children, which is a 2002 original. So
yeah,
again,
garage rock at its best.
I have to throw stuff in that you like because it can't always be stuff I like. That's
and I do the same for you. And actually, fun fact: Candy Cane Children actually referred to their fans because at that time they dressed in black or red and white. They looked like peppermint candy, so that was partly a reference to their fans. So
cool beans. All right, go ahead.
Next one, Merry Christmas Baby, that was put out by Bruce Springsteen. And this was in a 1947 R&B originally. And then he put this out in 1986 as a B-side to his cover of War. So, again, War became big, and then which was actually a cover song as well. But then Merry Christmas Baby started to really make the rounds. And then he also is probably even more well known for his rendition of Santa Claus is Coming to Town. He actually recorded it live in 1975. When I saw that, I was like, I didn't realize it went back that far. Santa Claus is Coming to Town actually was originally written in 1934. And it was a hit by a lot of other people before them, but Bruce Springsteen's version really has become a staple on
yeah, it's awesome. I mean, if you haven't listened to it, I don't know, you got to get out of the hole you live in.
Yeah.
Just pause for a second there. We talked about this very briefly. We think about Michael Jackson at this point. You know, I
Yeah.
can't help but think of the Jackson Five singing the same song, and when Michael Jackson was just a little guy, you know.
Yep.
And we didn't put him on the list because it's more Motown sounding and we're more classic rock. But I just wanted to throw that out there. Like
Yeah.
I mentioned at the very beginning here that we left stuff off on purpose.
Yep.
There are definitely musical things out there related to the holiday by other artists. So, you know, it's not that we're forgetting things. It's just our list is generated based on the idea of classic rock and roll for the
Yep.
most part, or a little of the punk, as you see,
Yeah.
things of our generation, our genre. Even though the Motown was a little bit, you know, it's still we're talking more about classic rock.
Yeah. And if we started really expanding out to all these other genres,
The list would be forever.
endless. So, um, along those lines, so if Bruce Springsteen's version kind of focuses more on the traditional aspects of that song, the next one, Alice Cooper put out a version of Santa Claus is Coming to Town in 2008. And in typical Alice Cooper style, it's more metalish. It is definitely more campish. But the kicker is that he instead of Santa Claus as in Claus, it's Santa Claus as in Claws to bring in that horror version of it.
Leave it to our guy Alice Cooper.
Yeah, but again, you still hear this, you hear the original melody and all that kind of thing, but it's definitely a different take. So if you were to listen to Bruce Springsteen and Alice Cooper on this song, you would definitely get a different take.
The side by side.
Yeah, side by side for sure.
Most definitely.
Yeah. All right, why don't you take over?
All right, very good. So the next one we're going to do here, Please Come Home for Christmas by Pat Benatar. And beautiful song. Pat Benatar is a very versatile singer. You know, this is just one of those talents that you can see how diversified she really is. Yeah. And I strongly urge you to take a listen to this version. You know, Please Come Home for Christmas was a 1960s R&B, and she recorded hers version in '91. Beautiful song. Just very different for Pat Benatar. So takes it right out of that element, you know, of what you're used to listening to, and you go, oh wow, that's really cool. And you know, this is what we're trying to do in this show a little bit, is to try to invite people to listen to some things that they might not normally have listened to, or at least expose you to something.
Well, and here's the case where Pat Benatar, you're familiar with her more as like a real hard driving rock singer, and this version of it is more big bandish or R&B ish. The instrumentation is not hard driving rock, but more the R&B style, and it's a little different than what you're used to hearing her do.
Absolutely. So the next one, this is really digging back in, and here goes a great band that never really took off, but Canned Heat. And Canned Heat, if you know, probably became more famous from Woodstock than anything else, but they did a song called Christmas Blues, and that was recorded in 1968. So, you know, the Canned Heat didn't have a whole lot of exposure for a very long period of time, but their music still stands the test of time. I mean, I'm not going to name the commercial, but there's a commercial out there where they're riding motorcycles to Canned Heat. So, you know, they're still relevant here in the 2020s, and as we get ready to go into 21.
Yeah.
Tells you how important this music is to the world, that we can't just, you know, we're moving forward, obviously, in all musical respects, but here are musicians 50 years ago putting out music we're still listening to today.
Well, I was going to say, you know, if you're getting tired of hearing the same old Christmas songs on the radio, maybe tap into this one, because you don't hear it.
No, it's not played.
Have something just to have something a little different.
Absolutely. So yeah. All right, so here we go. Step Into Christmas by Elton John, a 1974 original pop song. So, you know, a lot of people who are Elton John fans out there will probably appreciate this on the list, because we really never have talked about Elton John or Billy Joel for that matter. And, you know, and it's not that we don't like these guys at all, everyone. It's just our taste in music kind of go all over the map. And it's, you know, what a great body of work Elton John has. I remember being influenced by Crocodile Rock. I mean, come on, that was.
Yeah, I remember when you were very much into that song.
So yeah, it's just, you know, your musical tastes change here and there, but your influences are still for life and
Yep.
that's one of those people. Elton John is just definitely ingrained in there. It's just I don't talk about it very much. I don't listen to him very much, but I definitely appreciate his musical talents. Oh boy, here we go. So I played this for one of my colleagues the other day, and her jaw almost hit the ground. So this next one is Twisted Sister. Oh, come all ye faithful. If
There's
you
a juxtaposition.
you watch the video
Yeah.
and you know the song, and you just go, "Oh dear Lord, how is this possible?"
Yep.
You know, Dee Snider, what a great guy. He's just a great guy in general.
Yeah.
You got to take him out of the perspective of the band. Super intelligent guy.
Yeah.
People don't realize just how smart this man is. He took Congress to
task.
Yeah, back in the 80s. And if you ever have a chance to go look up that congressional meeting with Dee Snider, schooling the, oh wow, it's mind-bending. Anyway, we're not trying to get political here. I'm just trying to say this is a crazy song to listen to.
It is, and to watch if you watch the video.
Now you're gonna need to go to like Pat Benatar right after this one because you need to calm back this. So anyway.
Yeah. I was surprised. This was put out in 2006. I thought it was older than that. I thought this version had been out for much longer, but it was actually put out in 2006.
And oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a traditional carol that was written in 1744, and this is a rock metal song version
I know.
of it.
I was just gonna bring up the date too. I was like, well, yeah, it's so funny that we talk about it, but you know, that's just the way it is. Let me take one more here, and then I'll pass it over to you. So here's a great song, simple title, Christmas by The Who. Yeah. Doesn't get any more simplistic than that. Great tune. Tommy. Check it out. Yeah, Tommy, what a great album, you know?
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Yeah, released in 1969. Such great music. Yeah. That's why we do this channel, because it's such great music. It doesn't matter. Pick a band, it's great music.
Yep.
All right, go ahead.
Good. So next one, a Christmas song by Jethro Tull. Again, this was Jethro Tull is a progressive rock band that a lot of people are aware of, but they're not quite up in the echelon of some of the other ones. But man, their output has been tremendous. And a Christmas song was put out actually in 1968. It's kind of a blues rock original. Just really an interesting. Just a great song, very much in the style of Jethro Tull. If you can put on just about any song by them, and almost instantly, if you kind of know their output, even if you don't know a particular song, you can say, man, that sounds like Jethro Tull. They have their own sound, just like we've talked about. Every band of this genre has such a unique sound to it. It's not cookie cutter. It's not the same mixer. It's everything is experimental to some level from every band. They're all wanting to tweak their own sound, whatever the guitar was, the strings that they were using, to the board they were running it through, how they were producing and mixing it. So everything is such a unique sound. I find like with this song, like it almost sounds like it was a traditional song that came out of many centuries ago, but it's actually an original song. That's just how seamlessly they kind of bring in all these.
I believe we've only mentioned 3 original. I think it's 3 that we have on here.
Yeah.
There aren't very many original Christmas songs that were done by musicians of the classic rock era.
Yeah. Speaking of original pieces, though, the next one is Pearl Jam, Let Me Sleep, It's Christmas Time, which was put out in 2003. This is an alternative indie rock original. I was not really familiar with this song, but it's just a beautiful song. And again, it has that
Pearl Jam
sound to it. So
we've talked about Pearl Jam. We've talked about the Soundgarden, that whole genre of grunge. And here you have a beautiful song written by a phenomenal band, and here it is.
And I think, if you were to listen to it right after Jethro Tull, you get 2 very different styles, but 2 wonderful pieces, original pieces. So, you want to talk about the next group?
Sure, I can if you want.
Yeah.
This is Run Run Rudolph by Chuck Berry. How can you not talk about Chuck Berry? We've mentioned him before in the past. He is the man. I mean, Chuck Berry really set rock and roll on fire. I mean, a lot of people will
Yeah.
argue that point with me. I think mentioning and talking about this earlier about, possibly everyone would argue the point that Elvis Presley was the king of all rock. Elvis definitely has his say. I've never been into Elvis. My wife, however, loves Elvis Presley. I just never got into it. I know you never got into Elvis Presley
No,
either. I
not
mean,
not as
it's all
much.
blues based.
Yeah,
I mean, I
yeah,
don't understand why my brain doesn't wrap around that as much as I would rather listen to somebody like Chuck Berry. I think it's just the sound that he has and how he carries it.
yeah, yeah.
The writing style is more rock and roll based. It's
Well, there's a rawness to Chuck Berry,
oh sure,
whereas Elvis
absolutely.
Presley is more refined. I would say.
Yeah, that's a good analogy on that one. So yeah, I think we couldn't have this Christmas list without Chuck Berry in
Yep,
there, and
yep.
that's played quite a bit. So absolutely. And on the same line of Run Run Rudolph, we have Brian Adams. Brian Adams, and we've already talked about Brian Adams a little bit. So
And his version came out in 1987.
yeah, and I think it's again one of those underrated songs. I think it's a great version, and he does a great job covering that and
Yeah.
doing it. Even though I don't like covers, this is a case where
And he kind of
it's great to do that.
sticks kind of close to the original sound of it. I mean, he doesn't try to go overboard and reinvent it. He really tries to
We've
stay
had that
with it.
discussion already. You know how where people want to put their own spin on, say,
Yeah,
like the national anthem, and I'm like, oh
yeah.
my, come on, just sing it the way it's supposed to. It's not supposed to be 20 minutes long,
Yeah, yeah.
and yeah, it's just I don't know.
Yep, yep.
Anyway, I mean, I'm all in favor of a little creative adding here and there and to massage it and make it your own. But when you step out and you just go nuts, that's
Yep,
I
yep,
draw the line. I'll
yep.
turn it off. So anyway, let's move along. And the next one I have on here is "I Wish Every Day Could Be Christmas"
Wait
by
a minute.
Bon
Whoa, whoa,
Jovi.
whoa, 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 whoa.
Oh,
You missed
how could I be so blatant to miss this one?
it.
We'll finish here and we'll go backwards. Again, it's not in any particular order. Just because I can't read, that's all
Yeah.
right. I am going to get my new glasses hopefully in the next couple of
I
weeks.
was
So I
gonna
can,
say because you're kind of skimming over one of your favorites.
yeah, I know. I put this on there because just me. All right, so let me go back here. "I Wish Every Day Could Be Christmas" by Bon Jovi. It was done in 1992. I think Bon Jovi speaks for himself. And here's a funny thing: out of all the things we've done, all the episodes we've done, we've not mentioned Bon Jovi once.
Yeah, that's
And I
true.
don't know how we've done that. Same with Aerosmith. I was thinking about
Yeah.
this. We have not talked about Aerosmith. We have not talked about Bon Jovi,
Yep.
Def Leppard. I mean, these are all really ginormous bands, and
Yeah.
we have not mentioned them. And I'm
Yeah.
mentioning them now because I don't want people to think we're biased in any way, that we don't like these bands, because we do. I just don't know why they've never made it on any
Yeah.
list or any particular show. So anyway, be that as it may. So back to my faux pas.
Let me just say. So the Bon Jovi song was 1992 rock original. So it's an original, not a cover. And it was a B-side. There's another B-side to "Keep the Faith," which was a huge hit. So now back to the yours.
The one.
The
All right.
one.
So everyone that's been watching the show or even knows me, I'm a huge Deadhead, and I love Grateful Dead. And so there is only one time that I can think of, and I found the show here. It's "Run Run Rudolph" by the Grateful Dead. It was done on 12/4/71 at the Felt Forum in New York. Pigpen is singing the song in just in traditional Pigpen style. It's awesome. It has a very Chuck Berry-ish sound to it. The Dead do a phenomenal job covering it, and
but with the Dead sound. I mean,
it is truly Dead, and there's nothing that's Jerry just picks like crazy in it, and it's a great tune. So if you have a chance and you want to go look that up again, it's 12/4/71. So
actually, there'll be a link in the description to that concert.
Right, yeah.
So
there's an app that you can get on. I was just turned on to. It's called Re-Listen, and it stores all the archives for a lot of the Grateful Dead. There's a lot of other bands in it, more modern bands, but they do like Dead and Company and Further. But they have thousands of shows recorded it. You can just go by the year. You can go look up any date that they played during that year. They have multiple recordings. So check out, re-listen. I'm loving it. Another Deadhead just turned me on to it, and I just can't get it. I listen every day because I just love listening to.
I'll put a link in the description as well for that.
Definitely a worthwhile listen. Check out that app.
Good.
All right, so I'll do one more and then I'll turn it over to you.
Yep.
So the next one is Father Christmas by the Kinks.
Yeah.
And we've talked about the Kinks and how influential they are, but great tune, by the way.
How underrated they are.
Yeah,
For
and
sure.
I think there was a conversation by I want to say, well, no, I'm not going to even go in there, but never mind. My brain moves too fast sometimes, and I just can't keep up with it.
But that's Father Christmas was a 1977 rock original. So here's another original song that.
But it has a punk influence.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely has a punk influence.
It's not a gentle song. It's not a gentle song. It's not a song. Ooh.
No. But it's one of those songs though that sounds like it's been around forever, but it only came out in 19.
Definitely King style. That's what it is. Yeah. All right, go ahead.
Actually, why don't you do one more because I'm not as familiar with this one.
Well, it doesn't really matter, but okay. I Won't Be Home for Christmas by Blink-182. That was done in 1997. I'm not a huge Blink-182 fan. Again, it's more like we cross over from that classic rock sound into a more alternative sound. They're kind of like they hover in between. They weave in and out of that genre a little bit.
Yeah.
But I enjoy listening to Blink-182. I know there's a lot of people out there who also listen to Blink-182, and that's kind of where I stand on that one. I mean, you have it down here, and your list is alternative, like indie, original, and take it for what it's worth. Listen to it, enjoy it. It is seasonal, so you're not going to slap that on in the middle of the summertime.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, go ahead.
So the next one is I Believe in Father Christmas, Greg Lake from Emerson, Lake and Palmer. This was put out in 1975, more of a progressive rock. It's an original, just a beautiful song, and it's a staple on all the Christmas channels this time of year. But you can't not go through the holiday without listening to this one at least a couple times. It's just such a beautiful song. Definitely worth checking out if you're not familiar. And I'm sure if you put it on, you'll be like, oh yeah, I remember this one. So.
And listening to Emerson, Lake and Palmer, they don't get enough credit either.
No, they don't.
One of my favorite songs by them is "Lucky."
Yeah, "Lucky Man." Yeah,
that's a beautiful song, well written, just a story amongst stories. It's an epic tale, and it's so beautiful. I just, they're so masterful about how they weave the melody through. It's just really a great, beautiful song. Anyway, sorry.
For sure. And then the next one on the list is Christmas Time Is Here Again, which was put out by the Beatles. So this was not on any of their albums that we're familiar with. Every year the Beatles would do kind of a special Christmas treat for their fans, like a special underground kind of release. I guess it would be underground, but so this song was actually recorded in 1967 for one of those Christmas type releases, but it never made it out there. But in 1995, they put out an album of some of these songs that were never released during their original time frame. So this is it's a very Beatles-ish sounding song. But just a beautiful song that you don't hear, but is worth listening to. So again, it was recorded in 1967, but released in 1995. And then to finish up, we have Silent Night, and we have two very different renditions of Silent Night on our list. So first of all, Silent Night is a traditional carol. It was written in 1818. Most people are familiar with this song. It is my favorite Christmas song. It's one of my favorites. Putting it out there. It gives me so meditative and so moving, emotionally and things like that. So the first rendition we have is Stevie Nicks' version of it. From she put it out in 1987, and again, it just highly emotional rendition of it, or just a very.
And Stevie Nicks has a very haunting carry. It's very appropriate, I think. And she does change it up. The arrangement's a little bit different.
Yeah.
But I think, just her voice changes how you listen to the song a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
And she also does another version with Tom Petty.
Okay. I was not familiar with that one.
Yeah, Tom Petty and Stevie Nicks, they collaborated sometime. I want to say often. They did quite a few together.
Yeah, I mean, they had that one huge hit in the early 80s. The title doesn't come to me right this minute, but yeah. But this one is just very powerful to listen to. And I would say it is kind of done, she tries to stay with the tradition of it. She doesn't try to overplay it. She doesn't try to, create an odd or, an arrangement that just
made that, we talked about this a little bit ago, how I get tired of listening to the national anthem being butchered to death. And here's a great piece. She holds pretty close to the traditional, but like I said, the arrangement's just a little bit different. It puts a little bit of a spin on things, and it's appropriate. I think it works really well.
So the other arrangement is probably less familiar, but I think it is, we mentioned earlier today that we didn't want to get political, but this next arrangement takes Silent Night and it puts it into the political realm. And it's the version put out by Simon and Garfunkel in 1966, more of a folk rock approach to it. And I think it holds up really well for our times as well. It basically they do.
Hold on a second, because the title is only partially there. It's Silent Night, 7 o'clock news in parentheses with that, and so it starts off with a very subtle. You can hear something in the background, and then they just slowly bring up the volume so that you hear the news being spoken about of the day. That day's news.
1966,
Vietnam you hear about War, the Vietnam War, you hear about riots, you hear about what's really going on at that time. And it's earth-shattering to feel that same almost identical type of news that we're listening to today. It's how can we still be here? Yeah. And it's only like 2 minutes long.
Yeah. This
version of Silent Night, but it is so powerful. I remember I was probably 14 years old, and Dad had given me all of his Simon and Garfunkel albums, and this is an original. And I listened to it for the first time, and it was at night. I remember having my stereo on, and I played that, and I was like, well, I wonder what this is.
Yeah.
And I just was speechless. My jaw hit the ground. I'm like, did that just actually happen? And I had to listen to it one more time just because I was unsure what I was really listening to. And it was just,
I had a similar experience when I first encountered it. Yep, for sure.
It was very moving, and rightfully so like spot on right now for today. And again, I just don't understand how we could.
Yeah, I mean, it's this peaceful song juxtaposed with all the darkness that mankind and humankind can place on each other, and it's kind of a downer note to end our thing, but
it also is a season of hope, and so we'll end that with this is all about having fun, and we want everyone to have a wonderful holiday season with their family, and please be safe out there. No large gatherings. Gather via Zoom or any other mode that you can. Be as safe as possible for the remainder of the year until we can get through this COVID craziness.
And we hope this list gives you, reminds you some songs that maybe you have forgotten about, and also introduce you to some songs that that are new to you. And keep it all in that spirit. So
absolutely. And I challenge everybody on Christmas Day to open up this episode and listen to a song and have a little conversation about the song, then go to the next song, listen to that one, have a little conversation about it. And by the time you get done with our list, you'll have spent about 8 hours listening to some really good rock and roll, or maybe some sketchy rock and roll in there. But nonetheless, you'll have a little bit of fun. You have some conversation, a couple laughs about it. And at the end of the day, it's all in good fun. And that's the way it works. So on that happy note, I want to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody out there in the computer land. And this is Mark and Jim. We are Lead Balloon Rock Talk, and we hope you love this episode just as much as we do. Have a great one, everyone. See you later.
Bye-bye.